Hey everybody, welcome to the Man Alone Solo Role Playing YouTube channel. I'm your host, Man Alone, and a special welcome to all of you. Welcome to my channel. Everybody here is welcome, but I did want to give, just in case they are watching, I just had this weird feeling. A special welcome to Jeff Foxworthy, Martin Short, Richard Dreyfuss, Vanna White, and for some reason, I don't know why, but I feel like at least one of the members of the band Panic at the Disco is watching. So if any of you are here, welcome. I don't know if any of you are here, but comment. Hey guys, really quick, this is Malone in post-production. I'm really sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I left off just a couple obvious names. Also, Jimon Hansu, Rooney Mara. I think this is Rooney Mara. And then I said Martin Short, I meant Martin Lawrence. So sorry about that. For AD, expanded edition, but I want you to cast your mind eyes back in time to a simpler time, to maybe 3, maybe 4 years ago, maybe a lot longer, but probably we're talking in the last 5 years, that you thought about embarking on this wild and wonderful hobby of ours. You had some choices, you looked for recommendations. I actually did a video on this yesterday, just about like the different embarkation points and what that might say about your gaming experience or what you're coming in. And in fact, if you want to watch that video, you could check that out right here. I don't know how to add a little video there. I'll try to put something there so that it's not completely empty, but yeah, this is definitely one of the starting point games, and it definitely has staying power even without this expanded edition. There's a whole subreddit for it. If you look on we're fighting Mars, we're fighting the old ones. There's this the Lantern is like a zine or a quarterly maybe. There's so many of these, and Andre Sviligoy, who is, these aren't all For Against Darkness, but this is everything by Ganesha Games, who is the developer of this. It's sort of one of these nuclear reactive creators like Alex T, who writes, has written more by the time you wake up in the morning than you will write in your entire life. And so a lot of it comes out. I think that I have known about it from very early on. It was one of the first games I got. I definitely bounced off of it initially. And I think I did that because the experience that I was looking for was different than the experiences that I was having elsewhere. And the things that I've come to appreciate about this game, the ability to sort of build it out with different supplements, that's definitely part of its staying power. The ability to employ like different strategies, mixes in terms of your starting party. We have even more of an opportunity to customize that now. There are 20 character or hero types in this one. Those are things that I've always liked, but at the time that I was starting to solo play, I wanted something that was not reminiscent of like video games. Honestly, for me, that was the thing. That was one of the things that compelled me. Is I was like, I'm still a gamer. I like video games, but I was like, I want something that I'm more participating in, and especially the world building. And for Against Darkness, there's definitely world building that gets expanded in this one. But I wanted to create my own, and I want that to be part of the gameplay experience. And that's probably why initially I had For Against Darkness, not my thing. And then I tried like journaling games, and I was like, oh, well, I thought I wanted to create more of a lore and environment, and I don't really want to do these journaling games. So like, what is it? And then I think Ironsworn, Starforged really did, Captain's Log really did give me more, illuminated me in terms of what solo gaming could be. But I have gravitated back towards this over time simply because it's good. It's slick, it's tight, it works well, and you do discover things. And in fact, in this one, there is some opportunities to add some role playing on top of it. I still think who was it that I talked to about this in the members Discord? But just that, like, the perfect solo game would be like, think of Game Genie. Remember the original Game Genie? You had to like plug your Nintendo game into it and then put it in the Nintendo. It would be like a Game Genie that you plug 4AD into, so that it's not just like optional role playing, but it is the structure, the emergent uh, uh, mechanical bookkeeping pieces of this, and it's not just like role playing as bacon bits, because I think that's what a lot of these do. They'll say, and even providing these role playing instructions is still bacon bits. You know, it's like, well, you're here for the salad, but if you want, you could put a little bacon bits. I want the taco salad. All right, I want the, what was it, meat, beef, cheese, and not not a shred of a single shred of lettuce. Um, um, that is, I think, what would be ideal, but it's also a bit of a conundrum, because the more procedural you are, and then folding that role playing into the proceduralness, at a certain point it stops being role playing. So we're not worrying about that today. We're not necessarily, I'm not giving you my review from playing. What I would like to do is provide you with a starting guide, a refresher course for those who have played before and those who are playing for the first time. I want to get you up and going, give you enough information to start playing. So I'm going to create like a group of 4, and then I will, as I go along, we'll talk about the different parts of it, combat, saves, all that stuff, just so that you have a sense of how this game works. Now, I was thinking of all kinds of different clever ways to do this. I really wanted to use my dungeon poker deck, or my O1. Yeah, like these dungeon tiles. You could really fill out this whole table with it. Just kind of, I was thinking, instead of using the um, dungeon generation in the book, I could just use these to randomize it. But I think just to start, we can start with the core thing. And the first thing that you need to do if you're interested in playing this is you need to take the character sheets, like this character sheet in the back, these ones in the back of the book. I'm not saying you should take them and rip them out and throw them away, but if you have small kids and they want, crayons on something, or if, it's like oh, the fire's going down. We've got nothing, no tinder left. You can put these sheets in there, because the whatever they were going for here, it didn't work. There is no labels, and the icons. There is a guide for them that has a few of the icons here, not all of them. For instance, what do you think that means? That's a tombstone, right? No, that's a milestone. How about the one right above it? What do you get that? No, that's not Ludwig Wittgenstein. It's somebody taking off like a dramatis personae, like mask. I guess persona mask. So what do you think that means? Well, if you said trait, and the only way you said that is if you already knew, you'd be correct. And then you got an axe, a rope, and a bottle. There are 4 of them here, because it is 4 against darkness. And there is actually a lot better options. A lot. The first option is you could go to Board Game Geek, just type 4AD like enhanced sheet, and go to the top one here, because this is actually an incredible document. Let me show you what comes in it. It's a zip file. This is an absolute requirement. It has this right here is like a little adventure grid. This is better than anything in the book, in terms of just laying out how you go through dungeon construction. These, I think, need to be updated, although I did find somewhere else where these page numbers were updated. That's from the original book. Then you have these encounters, and it's like super clever too. There's like a middle inner circle and outer circle, because like if you're fighting against multiple vermin, It's almost like each one of them is a life, and so you can fill in the middle and then the outer. There's different things you do, especially for boss fights. And then you have the 4 character sheets. This is for levels 1 through 5, and then there's a separate one for levels 5 through 10. Then you have this amazing list of all of the different rooms that you can roll, and a way to set up your marching order, a way like a little bit of instruction on how encounter keys work and the character spells. And then this page, another good one, and especially here, you need this is coming from somebody who never uses the notes section on anything. This is going to be useful. I'll talk about why that is just in 4AD. There's lots of things that you're going to want to go through, say, during combat and stuff. And then the rest are just different configurations of places to put your map. So there's 10 pages. This is non-negotiable, friends. You got to get this. That is good. There are 2 digital tools. Now, I don't think either of these are scaled yet for the enhanced edition, but still, I think they're a good idea. If you go to Jade Raven's itch.io page, there's this dungeon keeper. It's pay what you want. And this is a really, really good Google Doc because you can also, it has like dice rolling here. So if you're in an entryway, you could just click that and it will give that to you. And then you can add it to the map here. And then down here, you just type in like your room contents or what you roll, and then it will summon that up right here. And then over here, the only thing that I think would make it so that this wouldn't be ideal to use if you had, say, like a one of the character types that was not included in the original game is I think there's some there is some auto calc stuff here. Like when you choose wizard, it automatically gives you 3 life and puts in your attack and stuff like that. I think you can probably put the stuff in yourself, but I try to do that and then it revealed like the under the hood of this, and it's, all of these equations and everything like that. And I'm thinking, I just don't know if that's worth the effort. But also not fully updated yet, but really, really cool is the 4AD companion. I'll put the link to both of these below. And this has a dungeon map that you could either draw it in like one room at a time, or you can just like random generate it, and you would click your party here and you could move your party around, etc. And then you could put all of your characters in and track your equipment and your spells and everything like that. And you just can roll right there. And it even lets you track encounters. I think the most impressive thing is that it gives you like a bookmarked address that you can save to and just hit it on your favorites tab and go back to it. So you could roll for rooms, for the room contents. I wish that it had what that Google Drive sheet has, which is actually telling you what a 62 is and stuff like that. But I've contributed nothing to planet Earth, so I have the right to speak of nothing. But yeah, one of those things is good for today. What we're going to do is I just printed out ones from Board Game Geek. So this is just like the dungeon and room building flowchart. Here's all the different rooms. When I was tinkering around earlier, I was using like dry erase marker because this is a dry erase surface in here. It just didn't, I'm just going to leave this to like create our dungeon with. I will talk about the characters now. So we got Jorma leading the party. We're going to have 4 characters. All right, let's do it all at once with the dyadic D20. We'll do solids are, what do you call those? The teens? The teenage numbers? Double digit. The outlines are single digit. 12. 0. 10. Halfling. 4. 4. 17. Rogue. Let me look at the Kukin. If it's a magic character, maybe I'll take. I don't want to level up to my expert skill and have it be improved secret compartment, unless I'm playing a kangaroo. So I'm gonna do a D6 here, but I'm gonna narrow it down to somebody who either has spells or prayer. 1 is cleric, 2 is druid, 3 is elf, 4 is illusionist, 5 is paladin, 6 is a wizard. Elf, that's fine. Alright, so they do have like some oracle tables in here, which is nice. They did not have a name table. So, obviously my main character is Jorma. We'll figure out who that is. We're gonna do this old school style. So I have this here. Leonard. Milka. OJ. I like that. Wait, did I just name 2 breakfast drinks? Well, Leonard's not a breakfast drink. Alright, so we have Jorma, Leonard, OJ, and Milka. I'm thinking halfling, OJ. Leonard's got to be the bulwark. Milka is elf. Okay, good. So I guess that makes me a rogue. I like a rogue. All right, so you have your softcover book or the $10 PDF. I'll put affiliate link to drive through below if you want to support the channel. PDF or this are going to work just fine. You went and downloaded the 10-page packet with the dungeon and room building table and the different diagrams and all kinds of good stuff, like to track our 4 characters and our encounters. And you even perhaps chose your 4 characters, maybe named them, gave them a class, and probably right about then you might say, whoa, what is all this stuff about saves? What does saves as rogue mean? What does plus half L mean? So just pump the brakes a little bit and let's just start at the top. So the first thing is, besides the book, what do you need? Well, if you do download that packet, you're going to get most of what you need, because most of what you need is space to draw your map. Now, something reasonable in you says, I can draw the map however big I want it. And that is true if you keep the ratio. For instance, instead of using these individual little like centimeter squares, I could make every single one of these squares like 1 square, so that if I drew this little square room on the bottom, I would make it like that, right? And I would have sheets of paper all over my floor. The recommendation for the size of a dungeon, at least in the base edition here, is 20 by 28 or 28 by 20. It doesn't matter the orientation, because when you're drawing these things, you can kind of Tetris them. You can rotate them, you can flip them, you can even truncate them a little bit. But unless you are scaling this, meaning that you're keeping the dimensions the same, of like the rooms get bigger, your grid gets bigger. If you can go a little bit bigger than this, right? I could probably go one of these like inch or so squares bigger, maybe in every direction, make it a little over 30, and that would kind of be pushing it. But the larger the dungeon, the more difficult it is. And if I were to make a dungeon, especially at level 1, that was this big, it would kill me, because it's just, I would encounter too many foes. So you want to do 20 by 28 squares. All right. And you're gonna, this is really, for me, the most fun part of the game, because I have a thrill every time I'm drawing it up. And I definitely don't make masterpieces, but I do like having a little ruler, just so that the finished product, when I sit back, it looks really cool. I really like how it looks, like all the little details around it and numbering all the rooms, and I can look back and see what happened. No, I am not a person who's going to like draw each stone in the masonry of the wall. But I do a little bit more than just kind of like this, just so that I can keep it neat and clean. Again, you can do what you feel comfortable with. But in addition to some graph paper for to start the game, we just need 2d6. I would do 2 different colors just because you're going to be doing a d6 roll. And so I usually just say the light one is the 10s, the dark one is the 1s. So I rolled a 36, right? You don't have to do that. You could easily use this. As you get higher in levels and your tier goes up, and we'll talk about that, especially if you use any of the supplements, all of which are backwards compatible with this, you'll need the other polyhedral dice, D8, D10, 12, etc. But for now, this will mostly do it for most of what we're doing. I like to bring out some miniatures just to get like a little mind picture going. And there is even included in that packet that marching order thing. I have the marching order you might have seen already here. And marching order is basically the way that they're going to enter a room. And this is the first place that I say, when in doubt, just think of the scene picture. Let's just look right here, okay? So we have Leonard, who is a bulwark, right, which is like a totally armored tank character with 8 HP. We have Jorma, who is a rogue. We have Milka, who is an elf. Or maybe this is Milka, I haven't decided yet. And then we have OJ, who is a halfling. We don't know what is going to be in the room. We can get an arrow loosed at us. We could have a trap. Who do you think is going to go first? It's going to be 1, Leonard, 2, Jorma, 3, Milka, 4, OJ. And we can switch that around if circumstances change. But that's what the marching order is. And if you don't get it right away, you start having issues with it, you just change it up. It's no big deal. You do not need minis. There is a very interesting little set of rules that somebody wrote up on the on Board Game Geek for using miniatures. I think for this, you don't need a huge surface if you were to use miniatures. I think probably something like this would be fine if you use that, but you don't have to. And honestly, if you have something like this, you could probably just kind of do it on the grid that you have if you wanted to. You don't need miniatures. In fact, the marching order here, I just have it little magnets like that. Now, something I also like to do, and I think once we talk about combat and the characters, you'll get a sense of if this workflow would help you or not. But for me, the only really difficult thing about 4AD is remembering all the little toggles that my characters have. Now, to fully show you what I mean by that, I would kind of have to get ahead of myself a little bit. But let's just take one of the characters to show you what I mean. And the workflow I was talking about was creating these little playing cards, and they're just 4 of them against darkness. So the halfling, all right? This is the character sheet for the halfling. This is the general structure of it. Is it's going to tell you their combat skills, their stealth, their starting wealth, life, what magic they could use, weapons and armor they can use, and there's a table of traits. For the halfling, you actually get to pick 2 traits. I took sling skill, which is you add plus tier, Tier, to your attack rolls with slings. And because we are all going to be level 1 through 4 using this, you're just going to be tier 1, hence why we are just using the D6. And I also took comforting cook. All right, so let's take a look. Comforting cook, when you rest, you and 1 ally recover 1 extra life. You must use 1 food ration to use this trait. This is in addition to your standard nourishing meal ability. Aha. So simple enough, right? You have 1 one ability to get some extra life. 1 life is like really important in this game. It's not just like 1 HP. I mean, it is, but it's very valuable, especially when some of these characters start with 4. And no surprise there. That's not asking of us anything that another game wouldn't. Nourishing meal. Once per adventure, when resting, you can cook a nourishing meal using 1 food ration per ally. Any ally eating the nourishing meal heals 1 life in addition to life healed by resting. Halflings eat a nourishing meal. Halflings who eat a nourishing meal also recover 1 madness, which we won't have to worry about now. If not enough rations are available, you may have only some allies eat the nourishing meal. Okay, so I have this nourishing meal that's like a built-in trait. Then I also have this comforting cook. Okay. Now, keep that in mind. Let's look at combat. Halflings add plus their level to their defense rolls. Okay, that's easy enough, especially when you're level 1. But wait a minute. Against giants, trolls, ogres, and half giants. That makes sense, right? Because they're tiny, so they're going to be running through their legs, and they're very good at being scared. But it's only against these certain enemies, all right? Giants, trolls, ogres, and half giants. It makes sense because they're all huge. They add plus level to attacks with slings. Aha, so that also goes with sling skill. You add plus tier to your attack rolls with slings. All right, got to remember that. I also have L plus 1 luck points, L being level. So I start with 2. And I can spend a luck point to run away from a melee without receiving an attack, or to re-roll an attack, defense, save, or search roll, or a roll on the treasure or magical treasure table from any 4 Against Darkness book. And that doesn't mean I can just spend the point and roll on it. It means I can re-roll that to get a better option. Luck points replenish between adventures. If you gain or lose 1 level, immediately gain or lose a luck point. All right, so we now have, when I rest, I can do comforting cook, and I use a food ration, and that looks like all I need to do that is to rest. And then nourishing meal, I also need a ration, and that's once per adventure. So that's not necessarily once per level, once per day, once per adventure. And then I also have these luck points, which do replenish when I gain a level or lose a level, I guess. And these luck points also have, in terms of like when I can spend them, basically anytime I have them. However, they replenish between adventures. All right. Armor. My armor allowed is light armor. My weapons allowed are light weapons and slings. Starting equipment's easy enough. Starting wealth, life is easy enough. Magic, standard use of scrolls or non-restricted magic items. Stealth is plus level to stealth saves. That's really good. Saves as a halfling, which a little bit redundant. We'll talk about saves and defense rolls in a bit. I think it's unfortunate that it is set up as it is because it's a bit like an irregular verb. You just have to remember it. And then traits, and then advanced skills as halfling as well. There's some advanced skills you can get later. So the thing about this is that I have 4 characters. And so right now, everything I've just told you, I have it all in mind. It's no problem. But as I'm going through combat, as I am drawing these rooms, as I am determining initiative and whether I want to try to get an enemy reaction, or I want to get the drop on them by surprising them, or maybe I want to flee, or maybe I want to use a scroll. Which scroll can I use? Oh, I just found this awesome dagger. Is a dagger a light weapon or is it a hand weapon? A sling, I use the sling. Am I in range, or am I still able to use it? Because if so, I'm able to add plus L to attacks with slings, and I get to add my tier because I have the sling skill. How often am I able to do that? And then also I got hit now, etc. Because of that, there's this, you need to offshore from your brain some of this stuff. And the way that I do it and make it really easy is I have my character sheet, all right? But now I have this card, which there's definitely a better name for this, but I call these my toggle cards. And these toggle cards are everything I have to keep in mind when any mechanics occur to this character. So it just tells me, um, I'm making an attack and I go, all right now I'm fighting a troll. Do I have any toggles that I need to make right now? And I look, oh, that's right. I have a +1 to defense against them, or I have plus L because I'm about to hit with a sling. And that's what I do rather than having to look through my entire inventory, my entire abilities list. I just list when I have to toggle things. And then usually on the back, I didn't do this for everybody, but I will put like traits or something, things that I add. But I don't put the name on here because as I go along in the game and I use new characters, I build these toggle cards for everybody. The writing of it also helps me learn. Now you could say, well, I'll just do it with my character sheet. Fair enough. All I know is that's what I started doing here because I said, well, I'm just making a video. I'll just keep it all here. And then it starts to just get like bananas, right? And so I think any way that you can keep a sort of Rolodex of these quick switch things, especially when you get into something like the most powerful character in the game, apparently the acrobat, because this acrobat saves as a rogue in addition to everything they do. Now, there is a way here, if we look at tables on 140, I think it starts on 145, there is these comprehensive lists of attack and defense modifiers. And so you could, just as you're about to attack, look through it. I don't think this was the easiest way to display this information. And I think that this would have been a lot more helpful if it was put into a table, if the names of the characters were bolded, because as it stands right now, that like there's not even a bullet here, so I don't even know when it's 2 lines or anything like that. Um, and these are the kind of things that like this is the same with this is even better than the original one, and 90% of 4AD is great, but there's this 10% where you're always like, did anyone look at this? Like, did anyone think about this? Because, this kind of thing, this, and again, the saves and defense rolls has some like head scratching moments as well, where you're like, why did they make that decision? Every game is going to be like that. The thing about 4AD though, is that the reason you notice those things more is because it's easier to grok much more of the game much faster. Believe me when I say that big luxurious book you have of like, artists that stood there with like a paintbrush and an easel painting, the damage modifier table for 6 years, those have a million errors, or they don't have any errors because they just don't really have any mechanics. They're just a nice thought. So it's fine, but it's just these things that we need to know about. All right. So for the most part, the abbreviations and definitions are not going to look new to most of you, even if you're relatively new to the hobby. One thing that I like is HCl, hydrogen chloride, now highest character level. And the HCl system is a very nice, more neat, clean, sort of easy way to decide what number to test, right? Because you have this group of 4, and there are times that when I would play the original 4AD, the first edition or whatever, the opposite of the condensed edition, when you'd have to like roll something for every person. And then there was one thing where I had to like roll through everybody and then roll again and like weed people out or something. The highest character level is great, um, because when it calls for orcs who are HCL +2, if you have a character who is 3 and everyone else is level 2, you just do 3 + 2. So the orcs are level 5. All right. And this is mitigated by some foes having a minimum or maximum level, especially you have minor foes and major foes. And just as a little aside, vermin and minions are minor foes. Those are usually, you usually encounter those where there are many of them. And each of them has like 1 HP. That's kind of how it scales that, right? If you had 6 slimes, it's almost like fighting someone with 6 HP. And then there are bosses and weirds, which are major foes. And oftentimes minor foes are more limited in terms of, how high their levels can be. All of this to say that this system is clever, simple, easy way to scale the difficulty of the game in both directions, to make sure it's challenging, but also to make sure that like on the second room you're not getting absolutely blown away. All right. It says here is the example: a common goblin may never exceed level 6. Now, this is a bit of a head scratcher, and I mean that like I'm scratching my head trying to figure out if there's a reason for this. But they have this thing of the HCL system. I'm not sure why there would only be HCL when there are so many things in this game that are determined on LCL, the lowest character level. For instance, if you're trying to sneak, or there's some sort of danger that requires a save by your whole party, you have to test it with the lowest character level. Again, it's like, is it necessary? No, it just seems to be intuitive to me. But perhaps there is a reason. I'm sorry, but this picture looks like he is naked. Okay, so the tier number here, like I said, it's going to be tier 1 for this one. And you can see on levels 5 through 9, tier 2. So tiers, level, highest character level, those are going to be the things that we multiply or add to things in order to determine the number that we're testing. All right. The tier is big because right now it's just going to be a D6. You really don't have to think about it. But we have attack, defense, spell, and save rolls are based on tiers. And so because this is important, not only because of things like you can get a higher probability of damage, but you can also get a higher probability of getting exploding dice. And exploding dice on the basic tier is whenever you roll a 6, you immediately roll another 6 and add it to the total. If you roll another one, you can roll a third 6. All right. And this is really good, especially for like vermin, because you could knock a bunch of them out in one fell swoop. And they do note this is not an automatic save or an automatic success. You're just getting another chance to roll. It doesn't mean that you're getting like 777 on a slot machine. Kind of like the year 0 system, how when you have the step dice system, there are more success parameters. It's the same way here. So like if you have a D8, it explodes on 7 and 8. On a D10, 8, 9, and 10. D12, 9, etc. And so more of the results can potentially repeat. And that gets really, really fun. That's a huge adrenaline binge right there with the exploding dice. All right. This is just about balancing the party and mixing the classes. And yeah, I mean, I think anybody who has watched Conan the Barbarian has a sense of this. Like, you want somebody. I would say the easiest way to think about this, if you have no experience, is somebody who can shoot things from far, somebody who can beat somebody down up close, and who can get hit without dying, somebody who does technical stuff like gadgets or sneaking, or in the case of halflings, just makes a bunch of food. uh, Maybe somebody who is good with magic. And there are several magic characters, as I outlined when I was doing the character selection. Some of them have unique magic setups, right? Like the holy characters have the cleric, or what was it? The paladin has blessings. The blessing. But a lot of characters will have a basic ability to cast spells, especially when they have scrolls, which are sort of instant spells. You know, they're like hamburger helper of spells. All right. Um, but they do recommend, again, that you try the core, 4 of the core classes if this is your first time: barbarian, cleric, rogue, dwarf, elf, halfling, wizard, and warrior. And you really want to try to avoid doubling up. All right, so I did roll up the characters in this, but you saw that I replaced the Tony Kukoc or whatever. But that's the reason I did that. Um, it's not like I was fudging it or cheating. Like, you should really. This is part of the bigger strategy of the game. Is like, who am I putting on the table? Who am I sending into the dungeons? Um, so there's more uh, advice on that there. This is all lore. This is really nice that they included this. For some people, this is going to be the thing that separated them from being able to, like, build out some role playing moments and stuff. And as we saw at the end of the book is some guidance on role playing. But I'm gonna skip through this for now. So spell casting here, also prayers or divine spells. Uh, this is a few games where the magic functions very much like combat. Please, everybody, just do it this way, okay? So, um, in spells are going to be used in combat and outside of combat. In combat, um, spells are usually tested against the target's level. All right. There are also some spells that are automatic. I think it's safe to say there are less spells that are automatic in combat, but there are some. For instance, my elf has protection, which adds like a +1 to the defense rating for the rest of the encounter. That's automatic. I don't have to roll on that. But if they do not list them as an automatic effect, you have to do the spell casting roll versus the target's level. All right. And so you d6 plus level, and you want it to be equal to or higher than the target enemy's level. All right. And if it does, it affects the target. There's also some enemies who have magic resistance, and magic resistance, just think of it as an extra obstacle that you have to break through first in order to get the chance to cast the spell on the enemy. So it's like, think of it as like a force field, because what you're going to do if they have an MR is you're just going to roll against that as you would against their level. And then if you're successful on that, you repeat the roll versus their level. And if it doesn't get through that first level, it doesn't work. And if you do get through it and then you fail the other roll, it doesn't work. Okay. Um, and this also has like implications, even if normally a spell would not, if it affects a person with magic resistance, you still have to roll against that, even if there's no level roll. So those who do have access to spells but are not like known as spellcasters will, a lot of them will say like spells as wizard. And this is the basic 6 spells that anybody who could spellcast is not like divine spells is going to have access to these: sleep protection, fireball, lightning, escape, and blessing. Every wizard knows these. And there's even this random spell table. When you find a scroll, you roll on that to see which of those it is. All right. Druid. Wow, this is a really cool build, and I would love to try this. They have spells. They're not bad in combat, and they also can have animal companions. We're not going to go through that right now, though. There's also illusionist spells. And then we have scrolls. So when you find scrolls, again, it's sort of like rent a cop for spells. Terrible. This is your Paul Blart of spells here. Scrolls are very fragile. Water, fire can ruin them. So there's these like protective tubes. If any of you have ever worked in a building that has that like little vacuum system, those are scrolls. You didn't know that? Wizards in the basement. But yeah, you roll on that table to see which scroll it was, or if it's there's those tables as well for illusionist and druid. And wizards can also copy the spell to their spell book. I'm not going to get into the spell book, but some few things you need to know about it is that when a wizard, if they die, their spell book was written in like Little Orphan Annie, chocolatey Ovaltine code, and so you can't have another character pick it up and be like, "Oh, cool, spell book. I hope that Debbie Rosario Mellish falls in love with me." Doesn't work. That wizard spell, it's gone. It's because they wrote it in numbers, and you'd have to figure out what letter that chord. All right, let's move on. Really quick, if we wheel back to the wizards, like character setup here. Wizards have L+2 spell slots. So starting off, they'd have 3. For instance, my elf has L+1. And so before the adventure, basically before you delve, you would place a spell in each slot. And then you can cast that as item. And you start the game with 2 sleep spells and 1 lightning, and they refresh. This is the what is it, Vancian style of spellcasting, where spells are like items that regrow, like your underwear sock drawer when you were little, right? How did it get back in here? It's so clean. And so that's kind of the part, is preparing it. Obviously, it's scaled to be a game where you can't cast Fireball 83 times. But I wish it wasn't metered by adventures. That's such like a huge difference in time and stuff like that, but it is what it is. You have access to all the basic spells, and you can recover a slot if you are able to rest. I mentioned earlier that you can learn a spell from a scroll. If you do that, the scroll is spent. All right. There's another head scratcher. So if we look at the elf here, magic use, elves have, sorry, I said L+1. It's actually just L. I have 1 spell slot, and they add plus L to their spellcasting rolls, where you would attempt to land the hit. And the elf can cast a spell only if wearing light armor, leaf steel armor, or elven chainmail, and no shield. And so you can sling a shield to your back, and like most things in the game, you could equip it, but it takes a turn. So this is something that's pretty regular with wizards. I don't mind that the elf has this thing where they can only do it with light armor. But I think the reason for that is that an elf is able to wear any armor, or sorry, any shield, but any armor or shield, and any weapon except firearms. And so it has this limit here on what type of armor can be used for during spell casting. And if you're not familiar with this, this is quite common. And in fact, Dragonbane has this if you play more modern type games, which I think a lot of people, including me, and maybe only me, changed it to only armor because they were like, you can't cast a spell if you have a metal weapon or something. I forgot what it was. Now, you see here, it doesn't say that about the wizard, but that's because the wizard cannot wear armor at all. I don't know. Like, these are the kind of things for if you have a learning style like mine. My learning style is I want to know it and I want to understand what it is and I want to create, if possible, an inviolable rule about it. So I want to say, okay, you can't wear armor unless it's special armor because armor interferes with magic, and the wizard can't wear armor. Um, why can't the wizard wear any armor? Could they wear leather armor? Anything. It does make sense though. Like, they don't have to mention the fact that the wizard can't cast with armor or shield like they do with the elf because the wizard can't wear any armor. So what this means is the wizard is a glass cannon. They have extremely low life, 2 plus L, so they start with 3. They can't wear armor or shields, and they if they get hit, they get smoked. So in terms of marching order, they definitely need to go in the back until they're stronger. Um, but this is just something to think about if you're used to magicians being Merlin or Severus Sneak or whatever the name is. Sometimes you're like, here we go, my first adventure with Wiggles the Wizard, and then it's like first fight, and you fight a guinea pig, and the guinea pig like decapitates him, gives him a cleft eyeball. It happens, people. Don't. This is your PSA. Don't select wizards. They're all right. Now let's go now to like the basic rules of rolling dice, resolution, etc. Now that we have a sense of the stats and limitations and capabilities that the characters have. So I think it starts around page 90, which to wit, the original game stopped at page 90. But the reason it doesn't start till then is because you have all 20 character classes and all of that lore. Little bit before that, page 90 is combat actually. So let's go to page 77 to saves. All right. So saves are when you are rolling to prevent a character from damage or any other sort of obstacle, hindrance, the a trap. There is somebody is in risk of falling, something like that. You are saving them from a threat, from an obstacle, from a challenge, from something that wants to immobilize them, but usually give them a condition, but usually hurt them. All right. And so the saves, again, kind of confusing if you're a person who has a hard time moving on from a line if you don't get it yet. You'll see in a lot of the character sheets, it'll say like, as I showed you, same saves as rogue. And then you look at rogue and it says saves as rogue. Part of this is some of these things make more sense when you get the expansions and you see that there are different things that apply to different situations. Some of it is just to show you the umbrella terms of like, not every character is the base giver of stats. The acrobat has their own saves plus the rogue. All right. And so I wouldn't worry too much about that, because I come bearing good news is that one of the things, if you've tried playing an OSR game, that is a little bit shocking to somebody who does not have that pedigree is the sort of like what look like multiplication tables for all of these different things where you're looking at the different coordinates, trying to find where you are in the table and stuff like that. Each save in this game is bespoke. It's not it's not like individualized to itself necessarily, but it will give you everything you need when a save arises. It will tell you like save versus L6 poison. That means you need to roll your D6, and you need to add any modifiers, and you need to see if you have um, like successfully saved. And this is an equal to or better. All right. This is the part of things where it gets a little bit confusing, and I don't know why it is this way. So I'm going to explain as little of it as possible to not confuse anyone at this phase. Again, when a save happens, this is something where we want to think about that scene picture, right? Because think about like what the threat is, and think about how the characters are entering a room. And a lot of the time, you'll be able to tell right away if this is something that affects everyone in the party, certain people. But again, this is yet another good reason to have these toggle cards, right? Because, for instance, say you go into a room with poisonous gas. Well, you're going to do you're going to test against the everybody's individual character levels, right? There could be threats that you test the highest character level, right? Especially fire. Uh, um, if for instance, if you're saving against magic, something that affects the whole party, that would be a highest character level. But it's always going to say what what modifier you are applying, what the level that you are testing is, etc. So like save versus HCL +2 magic, you are saving against magic using the highest character level, doing a summary save for that. All right, so we would look at the character level that's the highest, roll that against the number of, if your highest character is 4, right? 4 + 2, you're rolling that 6 against you're rolling that D6 against 4 + 2 or 6. You're trying to meet or exceed 6. That's a tough one. If it's early in the game, hopefully you have a modifier that gives you a little something extra. All right. And again, though, sometimes based on where the character is, they might be especially subject to something. You know, an arrow shoots across the room or something like that. What direction is it coming in? Who is going to get hit? Is it going to go through everybody? Is the arrow going to go, excuse me, pardon me. Oh, excuse me, pardon me. Don't be afraid to do things like that. But at the same time, these toggle cards work great for these kind of things. Save versus L5 poison. Well, yeah, everybody's going to have to try to do a save for that, except the kukla has no lungs. So don't have to do a save, does not need oxygen, doesn't breathe, right? So you just think of things like that, and those are the kind of things I put on this card so that I can automatically go, oh yeah, that's right, I don't need that, or oof, I get no modifiers for that, or oh, that's right, I do have in this situation, or I do have this ability right now to give myself a protection, etc. And there is, as it says, no general rule. You just look at the text of the save, okay? You are always testing, the L that you are testing against is always something external, all right? It is, even the highest character level, you are testing against that. It is grading the threat based on the highest character level of your group. So you got to think about it like that. Like you're not rolling versus your characters, right? It's all player facing, but it's facing out, right? You're testing against this threat. This threat has a score. You will use your level, sometimes the tier, to grade that threat, but you're testing against that number and that number is coming from an outside threat. All right. Where it gets a little bit confusing is that you have defense rolls and you have saves. Defense rolls are going to be in combat. And when you roll a defense roll, it only succeeds if you roll over. Whereas a save is equal to or greater than. All right. But then the thing that, again, there's got to be a logic to it because they mention it in the book. They even say this can get pretty confusing when this happens. In combat, a defense roll must be rolled over to be successful. A save is equal to or over, except sometimes some traps require you to use your defense roll. And I can't quite tell the logic of that. Because at first I was like, oh, okay, so it's like if you are facing a trap that's doing something like an enemy attack, like a spear or an arrow's coming at you, and then I was like, well, wait though, like what if there's a fire, like a pillar of fire that could be an attack from? So just read what the save says and work it out. This is something where you don't have to store the multiplication tables in your head. All you have to do is be sure to know exactly what you're testing. And the first thing starts by always figuring out that number that you are testing against. And in fact, I'm going to say that once more in a sentence in the simplest way I can. I'm going to take 1 minute to think about it, and then I'm going to say it. You always roll against the world's L, never your own. Okay? Sometimes the world asks you, hey, what's your level? Or like, what's the highest character level here? And you go, 3. They go, okay, thank you. And then they come and say, this is a level 3 arrow shot at your face, right? You are always rolling against the world's L, never your own. And now, one of you that's been playing 4 Against Darkness for 35 years, even though it came out in 2017, please go ahead and complete your comment about the exception to that. All right, let's talk turkey, the most serious of turkeys. And that is, how do we start? Where do we begin? Well, the easiest way to begin is just to make your first room. And honestly, this, I think, is the best way to just get going, get into the game. Just couldn't be easier in terms of following the procedures step by step. You roll, you figure out what type of room it is, entrance room, corridor, etc. You figure out which one of these, and you just put it on the bottom of your map. It technically could be anywhere, but probably should be on the edge and somewhere kind of close to you so that you could build out from there. But if you're looking for a little bit more guidance, on page 125 is Adventures. And in Adventures, there are 2 pre-made excellent starting adventures that you could check out. And they said this section includes 2 short adventures designed for beginners. And again, they recommend using 4 PCs belonging to the iconic classes. The Witch's Cave and the Purple Crystals. The Witch's Cave is a procedural adventure. You create a random map where every tile has random content. This is like a standard random dungeon generated with this book, but simpler. And the Purple Crystals is a map-based adventure. While in some instances you roll for random content, this adventure has more of a narrative feel. You move on a map with numbered rooms and read the entry corresponding to a numbered tile when you enter it. So I would recommend almost everybody who is new to the game check out The Witch's Cave. I would recommend those who have played before, maybe not in a while, maybe want to check out what's different about this version, check out the Purple Crystals, because that is going to be set up more like the traditional campaign in a tabletop game of like, this happened first, then this happened, then this happened. But The Witch's Cave is just a pared down version of gameplay. So my thought is, well, I know that there is some wisdom in doing the Witch's Cave adventure. This is an excellent thing. Your assignment is, if you've watched this video and you're getting the book and you're interested, I'm not going to go over this now because I want you to do it. And it's perfect to get comfortable with the game. It tells you, basically think of it as like the instruction manual of start here. It's going to remind you about marching order, lantern, generating tiles, room contents, and then how after you reach a certain point, you could start having encounters with the witch. And it has its own 2d6 content tables and subtables. I think that it wouldn't make too much sense for me to spoil this one because, in fact, I'd rather keep it for you because you'll do great with this. It's such a great walkthrough. The one thing I will mention, so that I don't forget, is that this adventure requires the party to have at least one lantern assigned to a player character who must use one hand to carry it and therefore cannot use a shield, a two-handed weapon, a bow, or a sling. If the lantern bearer is killed, another PC must pick up the lantern. A party without a lantern suffers -2 on all attack, defense, and save rolls and cannot use ranged weapons or perform search rolls. My recommendation is, like, for instance, my party does not have anyone with a starting lantern. You can manage this in a couple ways. You could just say, okay, I don't have a lantern. That is tough. Not having a lantern is a -2 in all of those rolls. You're going to have a bad time. If you want to stay honest, you could get a lantern and say that you got it from a traveling merchant and subtract that many gold pieces from your starting gold. I would say we got a used lantern so that you don't give away all your gold. I think it's 15, about 7. The other option, and what I would do, is I would just give a lantern to somebody if somebody doesn't have it. Who do you give it to? Well, look who best meets the criteria. If you already have somebody that doesn't have a shield, who can't do two-handed, maybe a wizard. But this is serious. If you do not have the lantern or torches, which you could buy in bundles of 12, it is a serious, serious disadvantage. Now, the person carrying a lantern, it's true, especially at the start of the game, has to have one free hand. But later on, there is the possibility of getting what is called a shield hook, which is a nice little. Everybody should have a shield hook. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 shield hooks right next to me right now. But if you look on the equipment page, which I pretty much the worst labeling possible, and then I also wrote them in the see, I put equipment here. It's not even equipment. Ugh. Oh, it might be. A lantern is 4 gold pieces. So I'll tell you what, you get the man alone sale for it. 2 gold pieces for the lantern. Carrying a lantern requires a hand or lantern hook on a shield. See lantern hook below. Here's my lantern hook. There it is. A lantern hook lets a PC hang a lantern on a shield. Who would have thought? The PC may use one action to detach the lantern from the shield. If the shield is destroyed, roll a 3 in 6 chance that the lantern is destroyed. If it's not, it drops on the floor. And everyone goes, ah. Yeah, so you could get that. Torches are 1 gold piece per dozen, whereas a lantern goes to the whole adventure, like a whole delve. A torch will do 6 rooms or an hour, but obviously cheaper, perhaps more available. But make sure you go in there with a lantern. All right, so say you're just freestyling it. So here's the good news. You can pretty much do most of what you need to do from these 2 right here. And if you're really an elite dungeoneer, you can also print out, at the very least, the initial 2d6 tile content table. Each room is a tile. Okay, that's what it's called. And so I am going to sort of cordon this off. I'll make it a little bit bigger just so that we can see what we're doing here. But again, this is the basic size that we're giving to this. And then you go, well, where do I begin? Well, good news, you've got better. See the left there? That's entrance rooms. It's one of those. Don't do contents for it. Entrance rooms are, what is it, like when you played tag as a kid and you touched glue? Was it glue? No. What was the safe area? Okay, I think we called it home, but that was a deep dive that I found out there are about 6,000 different things to call the safe zone in tag. So please, if you remember yours, let me know below. All right. So, first entrance room. A 1. Perfect. So, oh, I never drew the thing. I got obsessed with the tag thing. Uh, Oops. So, a 1 again is an entrance room. It's a great entrance room because it has 3 exit doors, and so we could take it in any direction. This map right here is, what is it? 24 width, 32 height. So we'll put it right in the middle here. And we can see that it has sort of like a conic section right here. And that is the opening. All right. And so, again, I usually give myself a little bit of rulering. And we can put it right there just to give us some space. And you could actually count. So this is 7 across. So a little bit, there's 3 on each side of it. So it'll be like that. And like that. And like that. Oh my, that. It was a simple ask. And then we'll do, just to spread them out to make sure that we have space, kind of like if you're all the dudes, urinal etiquette, kind of follow the same rules here. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, um, need to find a grandfather. All right, and then what we're going to try to figure out with the next room is really important, because based on whether we have a room or a corridor, and I'm going to put like a little H in here, just to know that's the entrance, home. I don't know why I didn't just put an E. Um, Rooms and corridors have not only different results for when we like summon them, but they're also going to have different rules about certain stuff, such as searching and the use of melee or ranged weapons. Um, Now, there is a rule about ranged weapons. If you are ranged weapons work different in this game than they do in other games. I will explain that when we talk about combat next. But a big difference comes from if you're in a room or a corridor. All right, now we can choose any door because, we are traveling through the dungeon. And whatever way you want to represent that, you can. You could also just sort of remember it. There is options to split the party we're not going to go into, but for traps and stuff like that. But we're going to check out, we know the entrance. Now we're going to see if it's a corridor or a room. And the way we figure that out is we roll D66, and some of the results are corridors and some of them are rooms. Basically, the thing that is going to decide if they're a corridor or a room is their width. But if you're getting used to it, in the book, the ones marked with C are corridors. So let's see what we got. 63. All right, so just take a look in the book. I believe that is 63 right there. Hopefully that's not the room right there. All right, so 63 is most definitely a corridor. So I want to save myself some room over here. And now you notice I didn't roll up the content of the room yet because I haven't entered it yet. There are 2 ways to handle doors. When you start, the best way to handle doors is to just see all of them as unlocked and open. And that's not like a hack or anything. That is one of the ways to handle doors. There is an optional table as well that you can roll on, that each door you can kind of check to see like what kind of situation it is. It might be locked. There might be something happening there. You might need a key, all kinds of stuff. But for now, all we're going to do is look at what we rolled 63, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there are doors on 3 up. So this is a corridor. So we go 1, 2, 3. That's where the door is right there. And there's also a door on the other side of that. And then 4, 5. Okay. So we're just going to pass through the door like that. And now we can roll 2d6 on the room content table. And just so that everybody can see how nifty this is, not only does this dungeon and room building table guide you through everything, it's also going to give you the different options for if it's a corridor or a room. We're in a corridor right now, so I'm going to roll d6, and that's a 4. What's cool as well about these Newell dice is if you wanted to, you can also use these as like if you had any NPCs or anything that you wanted to encounter. We're not going to make anything confusing like that today. So 4 is empty. Great. So when you go into a room, you can search it once. And you might say, well, why would I come back to search a room again? That seems like an awful waste of time. Well, this is a big part of why there is the size limitations for the dungeon. Because in order to successfully overcome the dungeon, say you go all the way here, all over here, in order to finish it, you have to backtrack. And that's why we have to use little notation on these different places to make sure that we know what was there. Sometimes, for example, if an enemy has a certain reaction, they will leave or they will stay put, etc. So this is empty. We can search it. Let's take a look at that process. So whenever you generate an empty tile, maybe it just looks empty. You may search it by rolling on the table below. A tile may be searched only once, so we mark it with an S. When you search it in corridors, roll at -1. So that's what we would do. However, a halfling player character may spend 1 luck to re-roll once. I don't think I'm going to spend 1 luck, considering this is the first room and it's empty, because I'm guessing this is not where we want to spend our luck. But who knows? Maybe I'll get extremely emotional about this. So we're just going to roll a d6. We're also going to put S here. It also helps to have maybe if you have a different colored pencil, just so that stuff sticks out. 2. Tile is really empty. Nothing to see here. Perfect for our purposes here. Well, let's move on to the next room. And this is, you can see kind of like how it can go like this, which is a good feeling. Trust me, it's a good feeling compared to how it can be. All right. So we have a 56, and a 56 is a big, old, chubby room. And it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 5 with a 2 by 2 square missing in the corner. Now, we are a little bit, I won't say limited, but if we were going to use doors, you might say, well, we have to go this way or this way. How's that going to fit? Remember, we can rotate it, but this is open-ended. There is actually no doors here, so it just means the hallway can continue. And so this hallway just sort of ends at an open room, which is, not super weird. That does happen. Maybe even in my own home, that happens occasionally. And again, we can rotate this whatever way we want. And so I am going to do the missing square up here. And because of that, the door I kind of mirrored it because the other way would be to have it like this. But this door is here. This door is here. And another door is opposite this one. And so it would be on the long side, right here. So now we enter that room. We're going to roll D66 and we get a 26. And I shouldn't have rolled a D66. Oh, no. That's right. A 2 and a 6. I'm so sorry. I rolled just a D6 last time. So congratulations. Can't cancel your upheaval. All right. 8. Let's do another roll. 8 was empty again. 7. Roll D6 in the minions table. Perfect, because this will bridge us right into combat. Now, there's other stuff that we can talk about before combat, but this video has been making it quite a long time. And on top of that, I want to give you enough to get started. Okay, we will have wandering monsters that we'll talk about. That's part of exploration. Sometimes you find a secret door through searching or a secret passage. There's hidden treasures. There's also clues. Sometimes a player character finds a clue with a search, and with 3 clues, you could get a secret, and that kind of gives you like an edge in certain ways, usually with enemies. And I also wanted to say that, again, one of these things that's just obliquely coming to my mind, but it was a confusion point for me. In levels 1 through 4 in this, there's basically 2 types of bladed weapons, or I guess 2 types of weapons: crushing and slashing. And in you might get a little confused and be like, well, why do I have to note this? What does it matter? Does it do anything different? Um, it it affects the damage on certain types of enemies. And it but it also doesn't really affect too many enemies in this core game here. So I know that I could save that until we talk about combat, but the reason I bring that up is just a general piece of wisdom here, is that sometimes when you're learning a game and you come across something you don't understand, you go on a scavenger hunt, try and understand it. And you can lose so much time, like going crazy trying to figure out what is the difference between these two. But I mention this just to say you could just move on. It's okay. And a lot of times, rather than burying yourself into like a hermetically sealed frustration capsule trying to find this thing, a lot of times you're going to find it when you're just going through the procedure of things. There is a difference between crushing and slashing. Not really. I think it's -1 against trolls and +1 against skeletons if you have like a crushing weapon. But if you didn't know that, it's okay. You can just move on. All right. There's also traps. And when you find a trap, you roll on the trap table, and rogues will have an advantage on that. But of course, you want to make sure you see whether it is usually a save, but it could be, as we know, a defense roll. The light source is going to be something that, as time goes on, is a big exploration. You're going to get stressed about that. That's good. That is going to build an urgency. That is going to be really, really useful. The, I guess, last thing before I go to the table, as far as exploration, when I talked about how there are these like sub zones of the grotto and stuff like that, those are optional, but I really, really encourage you to check those out when you do get a result that puts you into something like that, because I know it's like, oh, geez, I don't even know how to do dungeon delving, and now I'm in like the basement of a dungeon. But the caverns and the fungal grotto, they're going to have their own different enemies, and their own treasures. So you're going to be able to get really, really cool stuff that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And all of it is just practice. It's like, I don't want to do that. I want to focus on the main game. For what? What's the main game? It's this hobby of ours. It's always churning, burning, turning, and I'm always learning. All right. So we have D6 minions. And by that, I mean we are rolling a D6 on the minions table. All right, here we go. 2. D6 plus 3 goblins, highest character level plus 2 minions, max level 6. So if it's highest character level plus 2, what level are they? That's right, a 3. And we're going to see how many there are. Roll a D6 here. Great, a 1. So we are going to have 4 goblins. Treasure -1. It's a roll you do. Dwarves attack goblins at +1. Goblins have a 1 in 6 chance of surprising the party. Roll on their reactions if they do, even if met as wandering monsters. Reactions D6. All right, so let's be systematic about this. Here's how, in my head, I'm going to get ready for this encounter. All right. So it's D6 plus 3 goblins. All right. Rolled a 1, so got 4 goblins. Their level is HCL plus 2. So my highest character level is 1, so they are 3. So I have 4 goblins, and each of them is level 3. Right off the bat, you know that means in order to hit them, you have to roll with your modifiers equal to or greater than 3. And to defend against their attacks, you have to roll greater than 3. All right, because remember, this is such a perfect first combat in a game of Goblin. To defend, that's the only roll that you have to roll over. All right. They also have this modifier for treasure, -1. That's not like a skill roll. That means if you win and you roll on the treasure table for minions, you subtract 1. So it's basically saying a higher chance for a crummier treasure. All right. Dwarves attack goblins at +1. That doesn't matter to us. Goblins have a 1 in 6 chance of surprising the party. And we roll on their reactions if they do, even if we meet them as wandering monsters. Okay, so we didn't meet them as wandering monsters, but we already have all of that data there. And now let's just like kind of build this out. And we want to do that with this encounter sheet. All right. So this is the first minion encounter. And we could check off if it's a boss or a vermin. It's not. They are level 3, and there are 4 of them. We are in a room. That is important because if you're in a room or a corridor, it can affect like if you could do a who can do ranged attacks. The 3 and 4 marching order in a corridor cannot do a melee attack and cannot be hit by melee attacks in the first turn. And then there's a slot for attacks per round. Early on, especially minions and vermin, it's just going to be 1. And these circles right here, you do the full circle to represent if you killed like a minion or a vermin. And if you were fighting a boss that has a like a condition or something like a protective shield, force field, you would just represent that you didn't kill the whole dude by filling in just like the center one. So the top is if you killed one of the minions. The bottom is if I'm fighting a boss who basically has hit points. All right. And so we know that this room right here is a room. We're all in it together. The marching order is as it is. We still have Leonard up in front. But the first thing we got to do is see if we got surprised. So when it says it's a 1 in 6, it means we're surprised if we get a 1. Now, I'm probably gonna roll a 1, but we're not gonna do a surprise. But well, I can talk about it. As stated, worst dice roller in the business. All right. So here's a simplified way to think about initiative in this game, because it's actually really simple. You always go first. Even when you're surprised, you will always go first. If you walk into a room and you're not surprised, right? If it's like equal footing, if you did not roll a 1, you rolled anything but a 1. I mean, it's different for everybody. But did the foes surprise you? No, they didn't. You can just go ahead and attack them if you want. That's your turn. And that will allow you to get off a ranged attack. It will, in circumstances, give you an advantage on your ranged attack. Like they will have a temporarily lower level. I think it's -1. And that's great. They will do their defense roll. Whoever survives that first, all 4 of you going. Or if you walk into a room and you're not surprised, you can choose to see the enemy's reaction. In the case of these gobos, we would roll a d6, and they would flee if they're outnumbered. If we roll a 2 or 3, they would ask for a bribe, and 4 to 6, they would just fight. A reaction counts as your first turn. Okay, so as your first turn, regardless of if you're surprised or not, don't even think about that right now, because it's the same for both. There's just a little key difference. You can fight or react. If you react, it's like, why would I react instead of just fighting? If I just go ahead and fight, then I am able to go first, and in the first round, then I can do a ranged attack. Yes, but sometimes enemies have a reaction that is preferable to fighting. And you're really going to need to consider these questions as time goes on, because especially as like your characters are on the brink of death, and it right now, giving 5 gold pieces to 4 goblins, like 20 gold. I think I have 8, 6, 6, and 11 gold pieces. So I mean, that would be 31. That would be, I would have 11 gold left. I'm not paying them off. The other thing is that they can flee. So if I was outnumbering them, if there were only 3 of them, and I was really low on health, I'd be like, well, if I roll a 1, they flee. A 2 to 3 bribe. At least we have a chance of getting out of this without getting scarred. All right, I'll roll the reaction. You roll the reaction, you get a 1, they flee. You don't have to fight. You roll the reaction and it says bribe, you can pay them off. They leave. Or you roll the reaction, get a bribe, and say, I'm not paying. That was your turn for the first round. So now they attack unanswered, and you roll a defense roll. All right. The same thing happens when they surprise you. You still go first. And you know how when I said you go first every time, you could either react or fight? If you get surprised, you go first, but you can only roll for reaction. All right. So in the case of these goblins, say I got surprised, I go, ah, shucks. All right, let me roll for reaction. I roll a 3. That means they say, halt right there. And I'm surprised, right? Okay, I'm about to do my turn. My turn is a reaction. I rolled a 3. You want to get by here? You have to give us 5 gold pieces. I go, 5 gold? How are we going to come up with 5 gold? You misunderstand. 5 gold from each of you. And we're like, oh, hell no. And they say, then feel the wrath of 3'2". And they would attack because my reaction was my turn. Okay. And you also have to be smart about this, though. So, like, let's put it in the perspective of, we walked into the room. We were not surprised. All right. So we have our first turn. and we go, should I attack right away or react? Well, in the case of certain enemies, for instance, if I roll skeletons reactions, they only have one. They always fight to the death. So of course I'm going to attack first. But the goblins here, let's look at the choices. Well, if I roll a 1, they flee if outnumbered. Let's see, how many are there? 4. How many are us? 4. Well, they wouldn't flee. If I rolled a 1, they would just have to fight. 2 to 3, bribe. 5 apiece, 20 total. I'm not doing that. Okay, well then we would just fight. 4 to 6, fight. We would just fight. Well, hell no. I'm not doing the reaction roll. I'm just going to attack. Okay? And this is essentially what's going to happen at the start of almost every round. I'm sure there can be situations otherwise. We don't have any dwarves. We will just say that they didn't surprise us, and we chose to attack right away. So that'll be the situation going into it. We choose to attack right away. And the one thing I don't think we've said yet is that in terms of morale, vermin, all right, they are weak little scumbags, but they're vermin. There's a lot of them. Okay. But what's cool about that is, say you get an exploding dice. Say I roll a 6. Let's say I do it with these guys right here, right? They're level 3. So that means I have to roll 3 or higher to kill one of them. So if I roll a 6, all right, I can kill 2 of them because I rolled 3 or higher twice, but it's also an exploding dice. If I roll a 6 again, I can kill all 4 of them. What if I roll a 5? So that would give us 6 and 5, 11. All right. So let's divide it up. Okay. So each of them need 3 to kill them. All right. So the first one, I have 11. I give 10, 9, 8, dead. Number 2, 7, 6, 5, dead. Number 3, 4, 3, 2, dead. Last one, 1. Doesn't do anything. It's not enough. It's almost as if you rolled a 1 against them. It wouldn't be like a crit fail or anything. And so that would kill 3 of them. You have to get at least whatever their level is in an attack, with modifiers and all of that, of course, calculated. Okay. This then, once we have all that, and I know that I'm about to attack, the last piece of information before I go into my toggle cards is just to think about the marching order, as well as who has ranged weapons. And for me, a bow and a sling. A sling is -1, but my little Frodo here is a what is it? A slingleberry plus L to sling. All right. And plus 2 shots if we're in the plains or a desert. That's not where we are right now. But let's see here. +1 defense against giants, orcs. Nope, that doesn't count. But as far as traits go, this is what makes the halfling a force to be reckoned with. They add +L to attack with slings. All right. Still not gonna spend a luck point. And taking sling skill, add +tier to your attack roll with slings. So a D. So let's try it again, but I want you to then calculate this out. So +tier is +1. +L is +1. So we have +2. And then -1 is the natural modifier for slings. The goblin are level 3. Can you tell me how I did? That's a 2. I wish there was a way to pause and be like, let's see if our adventurers can figure it out. 3, 2, 1. By the hair of my chinny chin chin. I hit with 3. That 2 plus 1 is 3. +1 is 3, or +1 is 4, -1 is 3. 3 is for an attack roll equal to or greater than, so I am able to kill one of the goblins. I would then just move along each of these. I would and if they have a ranged attack equipped, and basically the equipment just means that you uh, have it in your inventory, and there is no ambiguity about what is equipped. So that's to say, like, if you had 4 ranged weapons, you can't say, oh, I've got all of them equipped. You have 2 hands. Some things are two-handed. It also has to conform to the rules about weapons and stuff like that. And you can't have something else equipped. So if you just had combat with a sling, and then this next enemy has a weakness towards bows, you would need to have sort of, I guess, like the way I would do it is declare, or you have to use 1 turn. Additionally, if you use a ranged attack in that first round, you then in the following round need to spend that round arming your melee weapon, right? Unless it's one-handed. And so for the halfling, I think, let's see, a sling is a crushing range weapon that requires 2 hands to be used, but does not mean it is a 2-handed weapon. A PC equipped with a sling may shoot once before the melee. The PC carries enough sling stones to last through the whole adventure. So when it says before the melee, I'm fairly certain that does not mean like before each melee. I think it says in 4 Against Darkness, you do your ranged bits and then you go into melee. All right. So you'll just have to sort of like figure that out, especially because one of them has a lantern. I don't have a wizard that just can't carry crap, so that comes into it. My bulwark has a skill that like it's like, oh no, my little halfling is like, no. And bulwark has 8 HP, can absorb hits, stuff like that. This is why you want to consider something like this, because this is what's fun about it, but it's also what can be like, oh, it's a little bit of a puzzle. And you want to just maximize your safety and your damage, okay? It's really fun, and you may at first, it's kind of like something I think of what happened to me at college, but anything where you have worked or lived in a place and the first day you're there, you're like, this is massive. How will I ever even understand this place? I'm getting turned around. There's all these different streets, there's these buildings, whatever. And then by sophomore year, like, you just zip around. I mean, by second semester, you know where everything is. You've been everywhere. You don't even have to actively think about it anymore. There's always going to be a little bit of checking and making sure and making decisions. It's not going to be like total autopilot like that, but it does get intuitive, the order of operations that things go. Assigning enemy attacks. To determine which PCs are attacked by foes, consider the number of foes, the marching order, whether you're in a room or a corridor. In a room with fewer foes than characters, each foe must attack a different PC. Marching order is ignored. If there are not enough foes to attack all of the PCs, you decide who is not attacked. All right. In a room where it's equal, everybody gets 1 attack. If you're outnumbered, each player character gets an equal number of attacks, and you decide who gets the special extra attack. The exception is, and this is like the hatred rules, if it's like, oh, goblins really hate, I don't know, clerics, a cleric, then they will preference that. All right. Actually, it does say trolls, goblins, and kobolds hate dwarves. Orcs hate elves. Undead hate clerics. Okay. Then, if you're in a corridor, 2 foes max can attack the PCs in position 1 and 2. And a single player character in a corridor will be attacked by 2 foes. And there's stuff about dragon breath, running away. And remember, I think that this is not stated explicitly enough. pretty much everything is 1. Okay. And I know that that sounds like a bummer. Like you're like, I'm going to go through all of this just to hit them for 1 HP. The scale of it is different. Vernon's, Vermin's minions, they have 1 HP for the most part early on. Bosses might have 4. There's if you go to 50% or less, there's the morale check, right? With bosses, it knocks their boss level down, right? So the combat gets easier. So it really is a nice, slick, balanced system. The one thing that I saved for last, because it's just a little something I've thought about a few things. It's not really that important, and I didn't want to emphasize it, but there are a couple of things I miss about the original. I just wanted to say, and these are easily fixable, but one of the things is that this is like really nice with the borders and everything like that, but the like low it was almost like it looked kind of amateur, right? Compared to something like other stuff, that was out there. But it just felt a lot easier to read the tables. Everything was a lot cleaner, even though the order of stuff was a little confusing. Like I, I mean, you saw me at least a little bit. I was paused a lot because it's like the tables and the tiles, this should all be in the back of the book. Like, why is this not in the back of the book? And even more, these pictures and stuff. I know that some people were saying they really like them. I find it quite distracting. Like, I don't really get anything out of this. This is coming from somebody who loves to put pictures everywhere, but like to me, margin pictures are to direct the eye, to create a feeling on a page. Uh, this is just like mushroom, 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 mushroom. Um, it's just I don't know. Like this is good. It kind of shows me what it looks like, but then like here, um, I don't know. I just need the table. Like I feel like we're done with this now at this point in the book, but because it's not at the end, it's a bit weird. And then this does have, whereas the art in the first book I liked, the cover is something I just did not want to look at. I don't know why. It looks like press on decals. There's something about the depth of this where it's like it has no it's a 2D poster board of somebody, but I always like the art inside. I love that it felt like I could see the pencil lines and stuff. I could see that somebody sat there and spent several days, working it out, and there was a simplicity. And though I think there's some nice art here, like it's really cool, there's something a little bit squishy about it. It's like pretty well honed. And then this stuff, I think too, there's just such variability in it. And with the black and white print, um, my eyes almost never investigate these kind of pictures here because they're just like it almost I don't really know. I think it's that my brain is like you don't have time to squint and figure out what that is. And then this stuff, like I said, it kind of looks like clip art. And then you'll get stuff like this that's really cool. I think everything should have been like that. Um, yeah, I don't think you need to put art on every page. These chapter beginning ones are incredible. I love the weapons. It looks good, but there's some like inconsistencies in some places. And then, please, please, no, no nunchucks, please, no nunchuck with a mushroom man. This is like, you know, who's the new guy? Oh, he's Mushroom Head. Um, and then Light Gladiator. It just feels like I don't even know what that is. Like I was reading that and I was like, what is a light gladiator? Does that mean he weighs 60 pounds, or is it he's like a warrior of light? Um it just seemed like they wanted to hit 20. I don't really know. And then the last thing that I really loved about the original that I was kind of sad about is just the I mean, this thing, which is where this here comes from. Uh, this was kind of lost, like the clarity and simplicity of this, as well as this. This was the most hokey looking set of things, but it it was really really helpful to identify where things were on a map, and you almost started to feel after a while like you had learned a weird piece of cuneiform. And sometimes my designs would deviate from these, but it would like start with this beginning point to it. There was also something yeah, this is just off the top of my dome here. There was something really cool, and there always is something cool about implied lore. And I think that this is a good evolution, right? Especially because there's been so many developments, and the author has really earned it. I mean, this is incredible, incredible work that it's like you had to have been thinking about, what is this world? What are the stakes? What's the history of it and everything? And so I'm totally down with that. I just loved stuff like The Lady in White. What was that about? You know? Why? Uh but yeah, it's the natural course of things. Uh Four Against Darkness, expanded edition, awesome experience. Let me know if you've played it. I'm going to probably play it again, but I want to play it a few times just to get more in the rhythm of it. I started to feel like I lost a little bit of competence as time goes on, but I think that's just because I'm very tired. Anyways, love is love when I love you.